look at the hash sets you use every day. Are there hash sets out there that law enforcement could use that normally they wouldn't even think to use, that you could make available to a hash set database? If you do, and you come up with that aha moment, please get a hold of me or Jim, and we'll see if we can't get you to that summit. That's all. Oh, Jim's going to open this up to questions in a minute. And we're nonprofits, so we don't have really cool coins and stuff to give you. But for those of you who are brave enough to ask good questions, I do have the National White Collar Crime Center, much sought after and coveted pocket protector that I would love to give you if you have a good question.
That's a tough act to follow. Yeah, I have a lot of friends who like those. I'm Richard Marshall. I'm currently the Director of Global Cybersecurity Management with the Department of Homeland Security, and I've been in that job for, as of this morning, 6 months and 1 week. And I'm lucky to still be in that particular job. I'll give you a brief overview of what I'm currently doing, and then I'll relapse back to why I think Jim asked me to be on this panel. I've been a practicing attorney in Washington, D.C. since 1990, which seems like a very long time. So anytime Jim invites me to be in polite company, I'm honored, because most of the time I don't get such good invitations, kind of on the bottom of the list for a lot of activities. In my current position, we basically focus on a handful of programs, working very closely with my good friend Randy, who runs the U.S. CERT, who's sitting right down here, and if you need a job, come see him, he's hiring. He'll ask one question, not have you ever committed a federal offense, but have you ever been convicted of a federal offense? Our standards have modified over time. Basically, we're concerned with making sure that people practice software assurance, supply chain risk management. We're focused on research and development and education, which is kind of an odd little clustering of entities, but they all kind of relate to each other in a systems engineering approach. And our biggest challenge, of course, is to get each of the federal entities, the .gov entities, to buy into these programs and actually practice them. It's not enough to just run up and down the hall briefing each other and holding tent meetings of the faithful. You've got to encourage people to get out and practice. And I've often been quoted as saying, bring me skulls to nail to the wall. And that is not meant in a pejorative way. We're focusing on getting recognizable results, not just having another good government meeting. Okay, so enough of the advertisement about DHS. It's a great place to work, in spite of what you might read in the newspaper. Our section, I know Randy's section and my section, are full of very dedicated people who really are doing a fantastic job. And I am just amazed at the quality of folks we've been able to recruit. You hear that it's very difficult to recruit people to come into government service. That has not been my experience. I've doubled the size of my staff in 6 months. I'm adding somebody about every 3 weeks. And they're all amazingly good people. So you'll be surrounded by a lot of talent. When I took the job, one bit of advice I was given was, if you really want to succeed, hire people smarter than you are. And I thought that was great advice until they also added, that shouldn't be too hard. So I'm lucky to have such a good group of people. Now, the reason I think Jim invited me to be on the panel, how many of you have ever heard of Eligible Receiver 97? Yeah, each year the number who respond to that in a positive way reduces. I need to tell you a little bit about Eligible Receiver 97, because currently we are living in the best of times and the best of times when it comes to computer security. Way back in 1997, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff challenged a group of people along the following lines. He said, I understand there is this concept called information warfare. I understand that theoretically you can hack into computers, and I understand that that is demonstrated in the laboratory. But I'd like to see a live fire exercise. I'd like to see it actually done in the real world. And his legal staff said, well, boss, we'd like to accommodate you, but since we're your legal staff, we have to advise you that you would be violating Title 18. Title 18 is important because it's a criminal statute. You violate a criminal statute, it's not the job transfer that you really want. I mean, you're working for the federal government, but you're going to be down in Montgomery, Alabama at one of those prison camps and learn applied horticulture, because you'll be basically helping to groom the greens for the local golf courses. So not a good path to follow. But their lawyer said, well, wait a minute, we've heard of a group at a particular entity who do this computer security penetration testing. Are they violating the law? Let's go out and talk to them. So that's how we got the job. I was the legal architecture for Eligible Receiver 97, and basically set up a process. It's kind of like, I jokingly say, it's like being the lawyer to the mafia, although the retirement plan is a little bit better. But outlined a path where they could do computer security penetration testing without violating the law. And that included not only U.S. law, but foreign law, and also with the protection of international treaties such as the NATO Status of Forces Agreement, etc. It was a fascinating time. Now, why is that important? That is important for a number of reasons. One, we succeeded. It was amazingly complex and amazingly simple at the same time. But a group of less than 20, using technology that was downloaded from the internet, tested in the laboratory to make sure we could control the doctrine of unintended consequences, and hacked into a warfighting commander's computer system to the point where he had to report to the president, the acting president in this exercise, that he could not communicate with his military forces and therefore he could not fight. Now, if you're a military commander, that is not what you want on your performance evaluation, that you utterly failed. That doesn't help you get promoted. The individual who was the acting president in that exercise was a fellow by the name of Richard Clark, who later became the president's cybersecurity advisor. The reason I mention Eligible Receiver 97 with such enthusiasm is because that was the first time that the subject of this magnitude came to the attention of the president, President Bill Clinton. And every president since then has had cybersecurity on his agenda, but not like the current president. The current president inherited a number of programs that he reevaluated from his predecessor after examining them for a number of months, concluded that it was good, and we'll continue to do this. And now we have almost 18 bills in Congress that are encouraging computer security. And it's reached the point where Harry Reid, who was the the Senate Majority Leader, has encouraged all of his colleagues to get together, doing the LBJ rationale, come let us reason together, and come up with one good solid piece of legislation that will help protect the nation's computers. Now, why is that relevant to you today? The work that you're doing as vulnerability researchers, and I prefer that term over hackers and crackers and any other name that you may come up with. But if you're testing computer systems with a positive approach, as is done here at Blackhat, and you openly and willingly share that information in a public forum, free, you're not holding anybody up for ransom, that is the epitome of information sharing. That is absolutely phenomenal. And that concept of sharing information like that, you should practice and embrace. The other element that you should embrace is your lawyer. And I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you this for compelling reasons. It's not just because I like to be hugged. And a lot of lawyers are not into touchy-feely. Well, one of the reasons Eligible Receiver was so successful and nobody got a prison sentence is because they helped me, my hackers, my vulnerability researchers, helped me understand what they were doing. I spent weeks with these young folks in a thing called the cave, and after they felt that I knew enough about what they were doing to be trusted, they had a graduation ceremony that was called Do-a-do. Now, I had no idea what that meant. I thought it was some kind of haircut ritual. but it was to drink a Mountain Dew with them and eat Ho-Hos and Twinkies, all the while wearing a Hawaiian print shirt that they never washed.
Ho-Hos to Garris means something different.
But it's important whenever you're doing an operation, and I think everyone up on this panel will agree with me, tell your lawyer what he or she needs to know, not what you want them to know. And here's the distinction. The legal advice that they give you is only as good as the relevant, accurate facts that you present to them. And if your lawyer cannot address your problems and help you solve and find the path to do what you need to do what I've done twice when I've had international cases in London. I've fired lawyers. Get another lawyer. Now, it's not forum shopping, but there's no sin in getting people that are competent to work on your staff. All right, I've said enough, and I'll leave the rest for questions. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Chris.
Hi, my name is Chris Mitchell. I'm a civilian member with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. I'm a software developer. Actually, I work for I help develop forensic software for the RCMP's tech crime program. So,
We don't have any slides.
do we have, no, okay. So, what do? What's the tech crime program? Well, the RCMP has several programs which specialize in investigating different types of crimes related to cybercrime. So financial crimes, organized crime, child exploitation, national security. And the investigators in these programs require technical forensic support. And that's what the tech crime branch does. We provide the majority of this support. So how does tech crime work? How do we provide the support? Well, I'll try to give an example. It's a fictional example, but hopefully it helps describe the situation so you can understand how it works.
Speak up, Chris.
Oh, sorry. So let's say the FBI contacts the RCMP. They were investigating some online website that's a fraudulent website. Let's say they're trying to get people's banking credentials or credit card information or whatnot. Choose what you like. The RCMP would investigate, and let's say they find a shady character named Brogar who lives in northern Alberta, and he's not too bright. He's hosting this website from his home. Okay. So the local RCMP detachment would go and arrest Brogar, and members of the local tech crime field unit in that region would go to his home and seize his computer, his laptop, cell phone, camera, USB thumb drive, CDs, DVDs, everything, right? Maybe even his DVR. And they take that back to their lab, and they process that evidence. Now, let's say Brogar, let's say he bought a smartphone last week. It's a new model, and it's something that the tech crime field unit hadn't seen before, so their tools aren't working. They're unable to extract any useful information from it. They would then send that smartphone to our tech crime branch headquarters in Ottawa, where a team of computer scientists and hardware engineers would work to extract the data and analyze it. If they're successful, they'd feed back the results to the tech crime field unit. And they'd also work to develop a solution that could be deployed to all of these field units across Canada so that the next time they see this phone, they're able to deal with it. So I'll talk just quickly about how our tech crime branch is broken down. We have